Good. All right, everybody. I'm going to introduce you to somebody that I have met a couple of times. We've actually hung out at a football game where I was a little heated with nerves with my boys playing. But this is Mr. Scott Brown, the operating partner of Temerity Baseball. Thank you so much for taking your time and coming in and meeting with us. And tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you started in baseball, how you be acquired to be an operating partner of your team. Tell us about you and how you got in.
Well, the paperback's coming out in a couple weeks, but I'll give you a quick preview. It's bound to put you to sleep, so have it by your bedside table. But where we did meet was that M&T Bank Stadium in my hometown of Baltimore, and we watched the Ravens thoroughly decimate your Tom Brady Patriots on a Sunday night, and
That was
so
a
it was
brutal.
very enjoyable for me. But you were well behaved, so there was no issue. There was some storming out of the box. It kind of cleared out, I think, late in the third quarter when all the Pats fans decided to beat the traffic home. But yeah, it all started for me back in Baltimore. I was lucky and very fortunate in that my dad was the PR director for the Orioles for, different capacities, but mostly PR director for about 38 years. So I grew up around the ballpark, cleaning storerooms, sitting on giveaway boxes to make sure they didn't walk before gates opened, did some scoreboard stuff, some media relations, and really got a feel for the excitement of professional sports and baseball. And those were some great times for the Orioles, couple World Series appearances when I was working for the team. And when I got out of college at the local Towson University, I really wanted to do what my dad did, and I went to him and said, "Dad, that's the path I want to take." And his response was, "Go out and find a job." I wasn't going to be working for him anymore. Nepotism was dead at that point in time. And so I went to the baseball winter meetings back in '87 in Dallas and looked for major league jobs, but found out there was actually more minor league jobs, and was fortunate enough to land a position with the newly formed St. Lucie Mets in Port St. Lucie, Florida, where the New York Mets were moving their spring training facility to in '88. So started working for that club and love baseball and the business of baseball especially, and love the variety that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Thinking that you're doing something that's wholly important. Certainly it's impactful, but sometimes we might inflate it a little bit in our heads, but we try to take that attitude into what we do daily to impact people's lives and make businesses stronger, make families stronger with memories and time together, and really just fell in love with the minor league thing. Kind of with the Mets owning that club, I was able to kind of transfer within the organization, worked in the scouting department for about 4 years in New York and then back in Florida, and worked for some of their clubs in Binghamton and Port St. Lucie and New York. And then after you kind of get to the point where you've done all you can do in a certain position, in a certain job, look for different opportunities, and ended up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, running that club, and ultimately found my way to Charlotte, North Carolina, with a move to a new ballpark in the center of the town, and really enjoyed that. Like anybody's career, you have some life circumstances that can crop up, which forced me to kind of take a step back and take care of family a little bit more, and was enjoying that different pace of life, but missing the camaraderie of baseball, and had an opportunity when a new ownership group came in. They were eyeing the Kannapolis Intimidators at the time to do some consulting with them, and then ultimately join their group and help pave the way into a new ballpark in Kannapolis that was set to open on April 16th of this wonderful 2020. Of course, that didn't happen. Still hasn't happened, but very bullish on the future and what the franchise and the new ballpark is going to bring to Kannapolis and the region.
That being said, walk us through a little bit, because I'm sure having a new ballpark and having all of that labor of love that you did and that your team did. Walk us through a little bit of what that was like when essentially the world shut down in the end of or mid-March, end of March. And as you sit there and you're watching the date of opening day go by, walk us through a little bit about how morale was with the team, how you were able to help keep morale up, and what you guys have done to try to think outside the box to build the community relationship still.
Yeah, it was. We were obviously in the mad dash that every club is in, getting ready for an April opener, and especially with a new facility that you've never operated in before. We had that healthy nervousness that was, we're confident we're going to get everything done, but how in the heck are we going to get everything done? But we were on path to do that. Um, and then, as you said, the curtain came down, and I think that we were all in a bit of disbelief. I try to turn, negatives into silver linings, and if anything, it gave us a little bit more time in a non-pressure packed situation to get the ballpark ready, although we hadn't really determined with the COVID when we were going to be able to open the facility, because with no games, that was going to be our grand opening, the home opener. So one of the things that attracted me to this project from the get-go was the vision of the city leaders and the city council in terms of building this ballpark as the centerpiece of a downtown revitalization project in a part of town that really hadn't thrived in 25 years since the closing of the Cannon Mills textile plant. Part of their vision was that in order to sell this idea to their constituency, it was, this isn't just a ballpark, this is going to be a public park and be open almost 365 days a year for the public to enjoy, whether it be as a walking track or as a sunbathing spot out in the berm in left field. We have an elaborate play zone that includes a splash pad and a playground, and all of those things. We're going to make it a hook to get people, to utilize something that their tax money was paying for. So once we realized that we were in for the long term on this shutdown, then we started to shift gears and say, okay, we can't open with a baseball game, but we promised to make this a park, and at what point are we going to open it as a park? So that took place in mid-May when we got a little bit more of the construction punch list done, and people have been kind of circling the locked perimeter of the ballpark for months. So there was a lot of pent-up interest and curiosity, and when we opened it up, people flocked to it. It was an outdoor venue. Because we are designated as a public park, we weren't as constrained as some of the entertainment venues and concert venues and ballparks throughout our state in North Carolina, and that we were able to open because parks were able to open. And we decided to try to stop the bleeding from a financial standpoint, that we would go into full gear on our food service side and our merchandise side with new marks, new logo, just a whole new aura and new existence for us. And that turned out to be really well received by the community, in that a lot of restaurants weren't open for anything but takeout. You could come and get takeout at our place, but you could also socially distance very effectively with the outdoor, the outdoor venue and the space that it took up, and we were able to expand some of those offerings and really become kind of a hot spot, not in a COVID way, but in activity way for the local population to come out. And it's really been great in that there's a lot of naysayers to a project such as this, and we kind of felt like this park status was going to allow people to maybe have a free preview of what the facility was like, even if they might not have been inclined to buy a baseball ticket to come in. And we found all walks of life coming in, and the overwhelming, resounding sentiment is even those that aren't baseball fans love the facility and can't wait to come back and see it in its full glory once we do open up, which we kind of look at now as April 2021 for baseball.
Yeah.
We were like a lot of clubs. We were looking at every scenario we could do something to generate revenue, keep people employed, um, you know, keep the facility in good shape. And a lot of our efforts, we looked at creating our own baseball league and, other events that would attract crowds, but we had to weigh that with the health alliances, stipulations and regulations, and a lot of those planning ideas couldn't come to fruition because they weren't legal as per the governmental orders that were in place. But it's been great. We've been open 7 days a week since mid-May, with a concession stand open noon to 7 every day, and then our merchandise store that's in stadium's been open 7 days a week. We've opened our outfield bar and extra food carts that we have adjacent to that on Thursday through Sundays, and taking all the precautions with keeping the facility clean and social distancing signage, and it's been wonderful to see. People have adopted this as their home park, and it's been great. And we have been able to keep the bulk of our staff on board. We weren't able to gear up with game day staff like we normally would. We were in the process of doing in March when everything came down, but we've been able to give our sponsors some recognition, as we talked prior to the interview starting, because they've invested in the team, and we want them to get some investment out of it, and really just kind of get to know what the building's all about, without the pressure of 5,000 people cramming into your facility for the first time and night after night after night. So overall, it's been a positive. I won't say it's made up for any of what we expected,
Right.
but it has it's kept us in the news and kept us relevant in our community. We've been able to parlay being opened with some community initiatives like Walk Cabarrus and food drives and blood drives, and highlighting other groups. We just had Secretary Ben Carson in our ballpark to talk about opportunity zones, which the Kannapolis ballpark is situated right into a opportunity zone, and our ownership group has benefited from some of the designs of that program that's been adopted at a federal level, and I think will be a model for ballpark development throughout the country for years to come.
I think that's awesome. It sounds like, as frustrating as it was to lose your season, it sounds like it was almost a mixed blessing, because it's almost like having the dress rehearsal before the season opens, which I love. I love how resilient people are in minor league baseball. I love how, we're all wired a little bit differently, and to work as many hours as we do, but also to remain being as creative as we are as well. It's fantastic. You're one of the few that have been able to retain your staff, as you have, and saying that going forward, as we begin the drive to 2021, which at this point we all are, because you have to just get rid of forgetting what happened in the past. It's in the past, just put it behind you and let's move forward. What are some of the culture things, or culturally, what are you looking at and how to grow your staff? What are the expectations? Somebody, if they were wanting to get in front of you and to showcase their talent besides just a piece of paper, what is a great way that you would suggest to them to do and to impress you, and that would make them a good fit?
Yeah, I don't know so much that this advice is designed to impress me about somebody, but I'm fortunate that I'm in the latter stages of my career in professional baseball, and I certainly have a soft spot in my heart for the younger professionals such as yourself that are very gung-ho and ready to take the mantle and grow the industry even more. And everyone's kind of just worried about what's going to happen. Our team's going to be eliminated, a negotiation that's going on with Major League Baseball, and just what are the economics of it. I think continuing to educate yourself, whether that be in the formal side, or that could be as simple as something that I'm doing today, going to look at a new ballpark that's under construction, I think looking at traveling to other ballparks within whatever means you have, you could pick up something from every operation and every facility. And I think, you know, if I were to give somebody advice, I'd say use this time to kind of learn more about other operations that perhaps you don't have time in the heat of the summer when your season is requiring 100-hour weeks. I think the biggest adjustment for a lot of us um, has been the fact that we're not working 100-hour weeks at the moment, and we feel guilty. That's just how we are
Yeah.
wired. I think that, you know, that philosophy of minor league baseball and having to pitch in to help out in all areas has helped fuel our limited success here during the COVID era. And that, you know, I don't think anybody that we hired to our front office outside of the food service partner that we have expected to be, you know, elbow deep into a fryer or grease or cleaning a stand or serving customers or, you know, doing a cheesesteak on a grill. I don't think
Rolling a hot
anybody,
dog.
that's not why they got into it, but I think that we're all realizing that, you know, you have to pitch in wherever, and food service is a great education into what we do professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get a background in that, you're going to be that much better prepared to run your own shop someday. Um, I think a lot of us in minor league baseball, not all of us, aspire to being that operator, to running that club. And I think one of the benefits and the things that we have going is we have a tremendous staff, but a tremendous management team, and our GM Matt Millward and our assistant GM Vince Marcucci. They're, you know, they're closer in age to most of our staff. They relate well in that sense. They lead by example. Um, they are enthusiastic about the business, and they're not afraid to, you know, jump behind the counter and do whatever it takes to take care of the customer. And I think that that's a contagious condition that doesn't need testing with a thermometer or anything like that. You either have it or you don't have it. And I think that's really that's helped. I think talking to your colleagues, propping your colleagues up that, you know, maybe are without work right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are going to be opportunities that are going to pop up. I feel like a lot of those may not present themselves until first quarter of 2021. You know, most clubs are heading into what you would consider, even in a normal year, their dark cash flow months of the off season. And then with the distraction of the holidays and things that, you know, would normally be time we'd recharge our batteries and leave our customers alone somewhat. I think there's a lot of teams that are going to struggle getting to the, you know, the first of the year. But assuming, and I never say never because I never thought we'd still be in this stuff, that the NFL season would be teetering on the edge when this first popped up in March. We're confident we're going to play in April of next year, but we don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
We don't know how it's going to be different than it is. We tried not to spend too much time on the scenarios that would let us operate at 10% occupancy and 25% occupancy, because that model just doesn't work for minor league baseball. You can get away with that with big league sports and television contracts, but we just don't have those revenue streams. We need butts and seats. We need people in our ballparks in order to be successful. And a lot of clubs are still hogtied with restrictions in their area that they can't open up for any more than 25 people at a time or 50 people at a time, depending on what the latest ordinance is. It's tough. I think there are ways to keep your name out there, and social media has been a godsend for us. And that you can spend money on that kind of advertising, but you can also do it very cost effectively without spending any money. And it's given people hope and something to look forward to that we're open in the setup that we are now.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Scott, thank you so much for your insight. You know, this has been great. And, you know, as I've spoken to so many different people in so many aspects of this industry and other industries, It's so cool how every person has their own take, but yet you all are saying very similar things with, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to grow. We're going to actually probably be better in the long run, because it's almost like COVID is wiping out all the people that are, maybe they're the dead weights, maybe they're, and this is the new challenge, the new growth, and the new version of our new normal. But at the same time, think of culturally how much we are going to grow as an industry. And I think that is something that we should focus on and be more excited about, instead of, okay, yeah, this sucked, we lost our season, how do we build and how do we grow? This is where we become more resilient. So I appreciate your time today. Beyond appreciate. Drive safely, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Come see us in Kannapolis. The park is open.
I know.